welcome to this discussion. For those of you that were expecting my business partner, Kevin, Kevin unfortunately is a little sick. Some of you know he's got a little tiny baby. And little tiny babies come with lots of huge, disgusting germs. You saw my little tiny baby just leave. It is a weird moment when I have my adult child at the conference that I helped start. But it was interesting. My name's Jeff. I'm the managing partner at Techlead. And what I've prepared for and what I thought we were preparing for is an unconference discussion. Have any of y'all been to an actual unconference? Okay. Anybody? No? Okay. Yes. So unconferences, like a really, if we were doing a strict from the ground up unconference, there's nothing planned at the beginning. It's just a group of people invited around an interesting topic. And generally, folks show up, they pitch their ideas for a talk, and the expectation is a discussion amongst smart professionals. And sometimes not professionals, but here, smart professionals. So I have no intention of presenting really anything other than some questions and some structure for how we're going to discuss things, with the idea being that we can learn from one another and from one another's experiences. Right? We've got a lot of smart people here. Let's have a solid discussion and see if we can walk away having taught each other a few things and being able to have some, let's hope, some distinct learnings. Does that work for everybody? I promise you are not locked in. The doors are open. If you choose that if you decide this sucks, it's cool, totally cool. But I think you'll have a good time. So, we're talking about cross-platform strategy, right, in an engineering team, for engineering leadership especially. The goal today is going to be to get through maybe two specific topics in that vein, to be able to share some of the experiences with some of the folks in our little group here, and to have a hopefully inclusive conversation where everybody gets a chance to speak and share what they're thinking. What I would ask is, especially when we're talking about experiences, share experiences, as opposed to opinions that are not yet founded in experience. Opinions founded in experience we're in for that. All sound good? Great. We're going to do quick intros. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, we'll do quick intros. What I want is name, company, and the color of your favorite condiment. Good? You get to kick us off.
My name's Savannah. My company is VCSHR, and you said favorite color of your favorite condiment?
Yep.
Red.
Red. We can all guess what the condiment is.
Hello, my name is Alexander. I work for AIM, and my favorite color of my favorite condiment is white.
Is AIM like the secret bad guys in Marvel? AIM? Okay. Cool.
I'm David. I'm from Ford Motor Company, and my favorite condiment color is yellow.
Nice.
I'm Ville Kivisto. I'm from Supercell, and since I don't have a favorite color, let's just say rainbow.
Barry Bird. I work for Drew University, and I'm going to go with white.
Hi, Lucas Linkout from Warsaw, Poland, and I don't know, green, I guess.
Great.
My name is Hugo, and I'm from Mexico, from Farmacias Guadalajara, and my favorite color is green.
Hi, my name is Majdi. I work for a company called CMIC. We build software for the construction industry up in Canada. And I'm going for green as well.
Hi, I'm Rakib. I work for Insulit, and my favorite color is light red.
Light red.
Hi,
Cool.
my name is Mark. I work at a company, Merits, and I think the condiment color for me would be a hot orange.
Wow, I have no idea what that one is. All right, cool. All right, gang. We're going to go through 2 topics because that should give us about enough time to kind of dive into each one. And the way that I'm thinking through this is let's talk about coexistence versus, right? So native plus cross-platform in a particular code base versus native or cross-platform. Is there anyone today that has integrated some cross-platform technologies, say Kotlin multi-platform or Flutter, where you have a native code base and you are integrating certain screens, certain functions using one of the cross-platform? If you would, say your name and then your statement, just so that we can kind of get to know each other.
Yeah, Ville from Supercell. So I think I have a fairly complex use case. So I joined the company around 4 years ago, and basically I joined the Supercell ID team, which is an accounting system for our players. So we are a gaming company, and this was basically a part of our native game engine, which is built for, does games for iOS and Android.
Yeah.
Also works on desktop. And the previous Supercell ID team had implemented our SDK or the system, account system, natively on Android and iOS. And all the developers at Supercell, when I joined, I knew quite many people there, told that Ville, make it work on desktop. So basically, I had to choose, like, all right, do we do third implementation in C++ using whatever UI framework, or do we choose something else? So basically then I did my due diligence together with the team. We ended up with the Flutter, and now we are using a Flutter as a static library in our native game engine. And there were some complications, but in the end, I think that worked really well for us. And basically, well, the SDK used by, I don't know, around 200 million players. So we have proved it works on many phones all around the globe. So, and yeah, I would say I'm fairly happy with the decision. So congrats for all the Flutter people here, but honestly, like the choices there really weren't that many choices. I think in the end it was like, use, write our own, use Qt. That would have ended, with that, or then Flutter, so.
Very nice, thank you. Anyone else that has integrated? I know you have, Lucas. Yeah, go ahead.
A couple of examples. I mean, we're a service company, so we did a bunch of those integrations, and add to app in Flutter, because we specialize in Flutter, is indeed hard. I think it removes all the glamour and the joy of writing the Flutter, and it kills the entire developer experience when you need to use the add-to-app approach. However, business-wise, it is really welcomed by the stakeholders, because you don't suspend the development of your main app, and you can still experiment with using Flutter and adding it to the code base. However, what is tricky is to have the solid strategy so that not to remain in that space of building very hybrid app that consists of both native and the Flutter components, because the maintenance of that is obviously not that easy. It also needs to, you also need to have a very solid understanding among the product team of how this specific add-to-app approach works, so that you don't mix the navigation paths of the user, so that to make it very, from the product perspective, different ways that you can manage it easier or harder, right? And it's easy to say, sometimes the business insists on the features that are complex and overlapping with different user stories within the app. Yeah. And this is where the things are getting ugly and dirty, I would say. So this is definitely not the path that people love, especially when you need to convert your development team to Flutter, and you're using that as an example that is going to be, glorious from day one, right? It won't. So you need to prepare for really heavy lifting. I mean, that's the experience I can
Thank you.
quote here.
Anyone that has made a decision to do native or cross-platform and made the decision to not integrate in production? Interesting.
Yeah, so we use Flutter relatively heavily for a lot of our internal apps. So most of our apps are talking to vehicles either directly or telemetry over the cloud. And so in production, we have fully native applications. We have some code gen for SDKs that we will run so that they're compiled natively. For a lot of the test harnesses that we will give to people in plants, people who are engineers within the company who do not want the full application experience, but want to figure out like how is my hardware interacting with an end user experience, but a really trimmed down one. We write a lot of that UI and UX in Flutter. We'll deploy it across Android, iOS, and web so that people are interacting with the effectively the same interaction at a vehicle level or at whatever other hardware level. We've never made the jump to actually turn any of that into production code. We've mostly stuck with like code gen approaches, a lot of backend for front end approaches, and never really made the jump to any deeper code sharing beyond that.
Interesting. So using Flutter in this case for rapid prototyping, rapid internal MVPs.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Thanks. Anyone else that chose? Yes, please. And if you could just say your name.
Yeah,
first.
so my name is Majdi. So I don't know if web, when I was listening, I didn't really think of web as a platform to integrate, because we have our old web interface, Oracle framework, Oracle ADF, I don't know if you heard of it, but basically on top of JSFs and those sort of old technologies that we had.
Yeah.
We're moving to Flutter, so we are maintaining both, and with the hopes of moving to Flutter on the long run on the web and just deprecating the old interfaces. So yeah, when you asked the question, I didn't really think of it as integration between, a native and cross-platform, but if you consider web frameworks, those would be native web frameworks, and this is Flutter would be the cross-platform.
Very interesting. So in that case, you're really, the end goal is to move completely off the old web frameworks.
Yes.
Okay. Really interesting. So let's talk decision, right? There are moments when we have to make a decision. Are we going to just dive into a third platform? Are we not going to use this for production, and instead we're going to stick with our old code gen? Are we going to slow roll our transition? What are the decision points? Is there anyone currently facing a decision point for your team in your organization where you have to make this decision? Is anybody facing that right now?
My name's Savannah. We currently use .NET MAUI, so we're specifically cross-platform for everything.
Wow.
And we're looking at Flutter as an alternative as well. And we've considered native, but we're kind of facing this decision to bring to upper management of how to navigate, like, should we move to Flutter and all of these things. So we're actively, like, working through these decision points, just myself and a senior developer to pull through.
Very interesting. And what, so are there any specific points that you're looking at that help drive that decision? Because .NET MAUI to anything is a fascinating.
Yeah, the original application was written in Xamarin, and then when they deprecated that, we had to quickly pivot. So we're looking for a lot of communities, like more support for the application and just forward thinking our roadmap ahead, and trying to work through like some legacy code that we want to bring to the future. So those are kind of our decision points.
Okay. So just to make sure that I'm hearing, sorry, just want to make sure I'm hearing, that we're all hearing what you're saying. What you're taking into account is roadmap ahead, right? So new features that you're looking to produce. You're thinking about your existing code base and what's the complexity in porting that code base. Yeah. Did you say, was there another one?
I don't think so.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
Sorry. What's that?
Oh, yeah,
and the community support.
yeah.
Thank you, Lucas.
Yeah.
And the community support.
Thank you.
Yep.
Hey, Mark, so when I joined the company that I'm at now, a little over 2 years ago, I inherited a suite of mobile apps that were stuck on Android 7 and could not be modernized. And this was just a couple of years ago they were stuck on 7, to give you some context. So we were needing to rebuild all of them, and so had to start exploring how we wanted to do that. And that's how we found Flutter, for many of those same reasons, but we're a very small company, very few developers. And so it was also a balance of the need to have an Android and an iOS developer. So is that 2 individuals, or having a singular code base that developers can collaborate and not have single points of failure on a very small development team that can maintain and scale, and also the kind of the forum and the support for that too. And then the opportunity that it would eventually scale to potentially to web or desktop as well. I think those were really big things, selling points in exploring all the different, avenues that we could go as far as a development framework. And that, grateful that we did. It's been a thrilling about 19 months now of developing these, and also seeing as the Flutter platform continue to modernize. Grateful we made the decision we did, but it was also, I think for us, it was a resourcing problem of having one Android developer and one iOS developer, and when one of them's out, you're in trouble. And we were very small at that time, so that was a factor for us.
That makes a lot of sense. In our little room here, how many of us, outside of those of us who are running service shops, how many of us are larger teams, and how many of us are smaller teams? So larger teams first. 1, 2, 3. Smaller teams. Okay. I should have asked this first. How are we defining smaller teams? 5? 2, 1? Oh, shit. So small, for real small. Okay.
Well, we made the decision we were 2, but we got acquired and we're at 5 now. But when we made this decision, we were 2. Yeah.
Fantastic. Okay. Fantastic. So we have a very serious range of sizes, from 2 folks to Ford. Shock. So, on the larger side, folks, resource constraints are obviously quite different. You've made some somewhat different choices. You've plenty of resources really to decide to move away from code gen, for example, which is surprisingly popular among bigger firms. Why not? Why not switch your production process?
Yeah, I think a lot of it, I'll say it's company culture, but also some necessities. Like, we are really conservative in a lot of these tech decisions because we are supporting hardware for, effectively until the modems are shut off on these vehicles, and that goes back 15, sometimes closer to 20 years with some of these. So when we are making decisions for, we are deploying code, we have to think about the cost of that code for 15 years onward. It is a different calculation than if we have to support it for 1 year or 2 years. And so when we talk about a lot of the internal apps that we are writing a lot more Flutter, a lot more cross-platform, those are things that we have the appetite for one engineer. We can rewrite those as much as we want, but these really larger apps, they're living a lot longer. In some cases, just the code base that we have has lived through so many iterations of the hot cross-platform framework. We have to reckon with, what's the cost and what's the benefit? And I don't think we always get it right, but this is the side we've landed on for now.
If I can add to that, so when we were making the decision to jump with the Flutter, the biggest pushback was actually that Google has tendency to kill all the projects they start. And luckily Flutter is still living. It's not only Google project, but still that was also something I had to push back. That really, I do believe, check how big it is in GitHub. There's tons of developers. It's becoming too big to die. I hope it is, but I think that's a problem that Flutter has to solve still for many companies, how they can make them credible enough that we are not going to let this off, let this die.
To expand on that topic of resources, because I mean, I'm saying we're large. We have about 150 engineers, so we're
Yep.
sizable.
Yep.
But you can never get enough resources. And to us, the push to go multi-platform or cross-platform is business people are, if you can do something with 150, can you do more with 150? And that's always the demand. So that's really, from a business side of things, that's the explanation of going cross-platform.
Thank you. All right, we're coming up on the back half of our fun times together. So let's dive a little bit into let's talk a little bit about realities, right? We've made our decisions. We are looking to make our decisions, and in order to help some of the folks that are looking to make decisions, let's talk about what are some of the biggest challenges that we're facing after having made these decisions. So you've made this decision to push this out in Flutter. What are some of your biggest challenges now?
Yeah, so one of the reasons we, some background, so some of our games are like 10 years old,
Yeah.
well, over that. So that means that we also run on ancient hardware by modern times. And Flutter was running on fairly low-end hardware, unlike some competitors. And, you know, the package size impact was small, memory consumption impact was okay-ish, let's put it that way. And right now, like one of the, one thing that people wanted to do that, you know, roll our own, that's something that we have done in the past, like, you know, we have our own engine and so forth, because then we are in control of all the stuff. But now Flutter is maintained by someone else. And that means that, for example, you know, the latest patch increased memory consumption for no reason whatsoever. And even though it's like really small increase, for us, it's a massive, because, you know, the game teams use our SDK. And if they say that, you know, this is too much, we have to fix it. It's not like, well, Google said it's okay. So, you know, it's not okay. So I think the reliance to a third-party decisions is something that's tricky. And of course, like, we could always branch Flutter, but of course then we would lose a lot because, you know, not getting updates and you know, it complicates things.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? What other challenges are we experiencing, please?
Hey, I'm Rocky. So I work in a medtech device company, and like
In a what device?
medtech.
Yep, thank you.
So we help people with manage their diabetes. So 2 years ago, when KMP was known as KMM, we sort of created a common business library. Because especially for insulin delivery, there's a lot of calculations that can be shared across platforms. I guess one of the bigger challenges has been having the iOS platform sort of adapt or take notice of that initiative. Like, there are some components that they would want, like they do want, but sometimes it's more driven by, there's a deadline coming up. How do we expedite this? Mm-hmm. So that's more favorable for adoption. But if there's not a tight deadline, they would. It would rather be beneficial that they do it themselves.
Thank you.
One of the challenges I would say for people who are looking to go to cross-platform, or not just necessarily cross-platform, but changing tech stack or changing technologies, is the people you have and their will to adapt. Because that's something we are faced with, that there are people who've been, you know, people have been working on Java and like old technologies for not that Java's dead, but like, you know, these old frameworks, but they've been in that mindset for decades. And now you're asking them to make a shift, learn something new. That's very challenging. That's what I find.
Yes.
And you have to push, you have to give them the time, but you have to push them, and it's not easy.
It's actually a very good mentioning that point. And for those of you who are migrating or struggling with that, I can recommend the AdCar model. I don't know if you are familiar with that. So the AdCar goes from awareness, so making initially the people aware of the technology change, then as a desire, so you prove, you bring the rational evidence why it's quicker, better, etc. Then as availability, so you take care about and access to the technologies that they should have. Then there's a knowledge, so you train the people basically, and the reinforcement, so you identify the champions, promote them, etc. That's the model, the approach that we've been using in Virgin Money, in Visman, and all other companies where we help them to transfer really big development teams to Flutter, and it really works for us.
I would add to that, because the cultural piece is a huge piece. And it sounds stupid, but believe me, empathy, it fits right into the AdCar model. It is close to cruel to introduce tremendous changes to a developer organization in a moment where everything that they're hearing externally is almost hostile to them, without some amount of getting some understanding of where they are coming from, exactly as you're saying, getting some understanding of what their challenges really are in their workflow. So just as leaders, taking some time to understand where our developers are in their headspace. Forgive me, I had wanted to hear from a few more, but we are down to 2 minutes. So what I want to do is just kind of wrap a little bit with some of the brilliant things that you guys have shared here, so that we can walk away with a little bit of what we've shared with one another. And I would encourage everyone here, connect, especially if you're still in the middle of your decision. There's a lot of smart people here. If you're, I will wholeheartedly say, if you're still thinking about Flutter, that's the man to talk to there. You know, so there's a lot of smart people here. It's a good idea to connect with one another. The idea of, well, look, the idea of not slowing down velocity when you're choosing your cross-platform solution is a major one. You're thinking about your roadmap, and it's a critical decision point. We talked about how some organizations measure cost of code in decades, and some of us measure cost of code in weeks, right? It all depends on scale, so nothing is written in stone. This really is contextual, and it's contextual to your organization, contextual to your developer organization, and contextual to the challenges of some of your developer organization. We've heard, and I will tell you, this is without a doubt, your CEOs think exactly this. We can do this with 150 developers. How much more can we do with 150 developers? That's all they're thinking today. Always. So the idea of being able to do that in a way that is joyful, and it's unfortunate that sometimes mixing cross-platform with native removes some of the joy from the building of it, but sometimes it's temporarily, but sometimes it's necessary in order to get there. So there's been a lot of really wonderful wisdom.
You know, the Flutter team decided to just, you know, cut the rope on that one. So, you know, I know there's like custom, you know,
I don't know where that one's coming from. That was my inner monologue. I apologize. I was off on a different plane. A lot of great wisdom shared here. A lot of really good people. Stay in touch with one another. Feel free to stay in touch with me. But thank you all for sharing. I appreciate the conversation. Have a great day.